Hi, I'm Rashonda Cade. This is Reading with Rashonda. We are reading The House Behind the Cedars by Charles Chesnutt. We're on chapter 15. I doubt we'll make it through the whole thing today, but you never know. All right, chapter 15, Mine Own People. The drive by which Dr. Green took Tryon to his own house led up Front Street about a mile to the most aristocratic portion of the town, situated on the hill known as Haymount, or more briefly, the Hill. The hill had lost some of its former glory, however, for the blight of a 4 years' war was everywhere. After reaching the top of this wooded eminence, the road skirted for some little distance the brow of the hill. Below them lay the picturesque old town, a mass of vivid green, dotted here and there with gray roofs that rose above the treetops. Two long ribbons of streets stretched away from the hill to the faint red line that marked the high bluff beyond the river at the farther side of the town. The market house tower and the slender spires of half a dozen churches were sharply outlined against the green background. The face of the clock was visible, but the hours could have been read only by eyes of phenomenal sharpness. Around them stretched ruined walls, dismantled towers, and crumbling earthworks, footprints of the god of war, one of whose temples had crowned this height. For many years before the rebellion, a federal arsenal had been located at Patesville. Seized by the state troops upon the secession of North Carolina, it had been held by the Confederates until the approach of Sherman's victorious army, whereupon it was evacuated and partially destroyed. The work of destruction begun by the retreating garrison was completed by the conquerors, and now only ruined walls and broken cannon remained of what had once been the chief ornament and pride of Patesville. That was a lot of description of beauty and destruction juxtaposed against each other. I never really thought about what the landscape looked like after the Civil War or after any war. I mean, I've seen pictures, but I've never really thought like you're living there. What's it like every day to drive by? The closest thing I've experienced to something like that was in Ferguson, Missouri, after everything that happened with Michael Brown. And it's not far from where I live and close to my church. And so we drove through Ferguson, and it was wild to see the burnt out buildings and boarded up windows and just brokenness, just a lot of brokenness. And still, brokenness remains. And I didn't live there, and it made me sad to drive by. So now I'm really thinking the people who lived there, wow, that just strange. It had to be surreal to just wake up every morning and be like, yep, this is what my world looks like now. Wow. Okay, I'll keep reading. The front of Dr. Green's spacious brick house, which occupied an ideally picturesque site, was overgrown by a network of clinging vines, contrasting most agreeably with the mellow red background. A low brick wall, also overrun with creepers, separated the premises from the street and shut in a well-kept flower garden in which Tryon, who knew something of plants, noticed many rare and beautiful specimens. Aw, look at Tryon noticing a rare and beautiful specimen, much like his fiancée Rena. Mrs. Green greeted Tryon cordially. He did not have the doctor's memory with which to fill out the lady's cheeks or restore the luster of her hair or the sparkle of her eyes, and thereby justify her husband's claim to be a judge of beauty. But her kind-hearted hospitality was obvious, and might have made even a plain woman seem handsome. She and her two fair daughters, to whom Tryon was duly presented, looked with much favor upon their handsomeness, looked with much favor upon their handsome young kinsman. For among the people of Patesville, perhaps by virtue of the prevalence of Scottish blood, the ties of blood were cherished as things of value, and never forgotten except in case of the unworthy, an exception, by the way, which one need hardly go so far to seek. That's interesting. So they're kinspeople. Maybe I remember reading that. I don't know that I really do. But what's interesting to me is Tryon was like, psh, blood ties, whatever. They don't mean anything. You are who you are. And psh, I don't need to introduce my fiance to my mom before bringing her home. Yet he's surrounded by people for whom Blood ties are everything. This here says the ties of blood were cherished as things of value. I feel like something's going to jump off with that. So let's keep that in mind. The Patesville people were not exceptional in the weaknesses and meannesses which are common to all mankind, but for some of the finer social qualities, they were conspicuously above the average. Kindness, hospitality, loyalty, a chivalrous deference to women. All these things might be found in large measure by those who saw Patesville with the eyes of its best citizens and accepted their standards of politics, religion, manners, and morals. Wow, I bet any place looks amazing when seen through the eyes of its self-proclaimed best citizens and accepted by the standards of the best citizens. Yeah, everything looks amazing through their eyes. That's like with the stuff on with the sedition and insurrection and riots that happened on January 6th, 2021. Through some people's eyes, it was great and amazing and right and righteous. And through other people's eyes, it clearly wasn't. But what I'm really thinking of is people who said, this is not America, but so many other people who say America has always been like this. It just was never directed toward you. You just never saw it. We're clearly not going to get through this chapter today. Let's keep reading. The doctor, after the introductions, excused himself for a moment. Mrs. Green soon left Tryon with the young ladies and went to look after luncheon. Her first errand, however, was to find the doctor. Is he well off, Ed? She asked her husband. Lots of land and plenty of money, if he is ever able to collect it. He has inherited 2 estates. He's a good-looking fellow, she mused. Is he married? There you go again, replied her husband, shaking a forefinger at her in mock reproach. To a woman with marriageable daughters, all roads lead to matrimony, the center of a woman's universe. All men must be sized up by their matrimonial availability. No, he isn't married. Okay, so woe is he? Come on now. All men are sized up by their matrimonial availability. I'm not saying that's not true, but the men have so many more prospects than the women. I'm not saying it's not true, and I'm not saying it's right. But oh, woe is you. I'm a man who's been educated and has had all of the privileges in life, and I'm going to get on somebody who's trying to do a little better for her daughters. That said, come on now, you're also not right. You're just going to sell off your daughters to somebody because he's good looking and rich. That's also not cool. None of this is cool. All right, so no, he isn't married. That's nice, she rejoined reflectively. I think we ought to ask him to stay with us while he is in town, don't you? He's not married, rejoined the doctor shyly, but the next best thing, he's engaged. Come to think of it, said the lady, I'm afraid we wouldn't have the room to spare, and the girls would hardly have time to entertain him, but we'll have him up several times. I like his looks. I wish you had sent me word he was coming. I'd have had a better luncheon. We had a big 180. Nope, no room in the inn for him to stay since he is no longer eligible, but he can come by and visit just in case we sway him on his eligibility. Make him a salad, rejoined the doctor, and get out a bottle of the best claret. Thank God the Yankees didn't get into my wine cellar. The young man must be treated with genuine Southern hospitality, even if he were a Mormon and married 10 times over. Come on now. Why are we bad-mouthing Mormons? And also, C-L-A-R-E-T, claret. I know it's a type of wine, and I think it's pronounced claret. It could very clearly be pronounced claret or something else. So I have noticed that there have been times when I have only seen words in print and I have mispronounced them. So if claret is not how this is pronounced, post a comment and let me know, and I'll change my ways. All right, let me keep reading. Indeed, he would not, Ed. The idea. I'm ashamed of you. Hurry back to the parlor and talk to him. The girls may want to primp a little before luncheon. We don't have a young man every day. Beauty unadorned, replied the doctor, is adorned the most. My profession qualifies me to speak upon the subject. They are the two handsomest young women in Patesville and the daughters of the most beautiful. Aw. Although beauty unadorned is adorned the most. Men are always, I mean, not all men, but a lot of men are saying, oh, I just love a natural look when you don't have any makeup. But I don't know if they know that's really what they like. I currently don't have on any makeup. I often don't wear makeup, but sometimes I do. But I think some men have been like, oh, I love a natural look without makeup when I have had a whole made up face. Like, it looks natural. All right. Okay, so he calls her the most beautiful. Don't you dare say the word, interrupted Mrs. Green with placid good nature. I shall never grow old while I am living with a big boy like you. But I must go and make the salad. At dinner, the conversation ran on the family connections and their varying fortunes in the late war. Some had died upon the battlefield and slept in unknown graves. Some had been financially ruined by their faith in the lost cause, having invested their all in the securities of the Confederate government. Few had anything left but land, and land without slaves to work it was a drug in the market. I was offered 1,000 acres the other day at 25 cents an acre, remarked the doctor. The owner is so land poor that he can't pay the taxes. They have taken our Negroes and our liberties. They have taken our Negroes and our liberties. I guess they have taken your Negroes, even though nobody should belong to anybody else. I mean, did they really take them? They were like, go be free. A lot of them were still down there working for you. And they've taken our liberties. You don't have any freedoms anymore. Now that the South has lost, you don't have any freedoms. I mean, do you mean you're no longer free to hold people as slaves and never pay them? You're no longer free to do that? Come on. They have taken our Negroes and our liberties. Mm. It may be better for our grandchildren that the Negroes are free, but it's confoundedly hard on us to take them without paying for them. They may exalt our slaves over us temporarily, but they have not broken our spirit and cannot take away our superiority of blood and breeding. In time, we shall regain control. The Negro is an inferior creature. God has marked him with the badge of servitude and has adjusted his intellect to a servile condition. We will not long submit to his domination. I give you a toast, sir. The Anglo-Saxon race, may it remain forever as now, the head and front of creation, never yielding its rights and ready always to die, if need be, in defense of its liberties. With all my heart, sir, replied Tryon, who felt in this company a thrill of that pleasure which accompanies conscious superiority. With all my heart, sir, if the ladies will permit me. We will join you, they replied. The toast was drunk with great enthusiasm. All right, you already know how I feel about all that, so I don't need to wax on about it. I'm going to put my little mark here to tell me this is where we are stopping for today. And we are reading The House Behind the Cedars by Charles Chesnutt. I'm Rashonda Cade, and this is Reading with Rashonda.